Hello, world. This is your girl, Marky Lemons-Ryhal, and today I'm pretty excited because I know that I am going to learn something new. It is always a joy to talk about planning for the future and your exit strategy, and essentially that is what we're going to discuss today. Today I have Joey Mure. I had to say it again. Joey. I want to make it sound sexy. Joey Mure on
Woo!
and woohoo! And I had to ask you some questions. Joey, tell people what it is that you do in the wonderful world to help realtors.
All right. So if you really break it down, at the end of the day, it's what we kind of even talked about a little bit ahead of time, is what are people really looking to do? They want freedom to be able to do what they love, right? So if at the base of what we do at Wealth Without Wall Street is we help entrepreneurs and business owners, which obviously realtors are the best case entrepreneur. I love them. I have a near and dear to my heart, which I'll explain later why. But we help them to not be tied to having to list or sell that next home because they can't afford not to. But if they really love what they do, they have the freedom to do it because they have their future already taken care of. They've got that, we're going to call it a pension plan in the future that they can fall back on, and they don't have to worry about that next listing or sale.
So you said the word entrepreneur,
Yeah.
and I know that a lot of people come into the world of real estate because we want to earn an unlimited amount of money, but yet we want to control our schedule. And then we get this license, and most of us know nothing about being an entrepreneur. Like we say it, but then we want somebody to give us leads. We want someone to feed us. We want someone to take care of everything. Now, unlike some people in the world of real estate, I'm a fifth generation entrepreneur. So this is all that I know. And sometimes people properly plan for retirement and sometimes they don't. When we look at the world of real estate, the average age of a realtor is probably older than any other occupation in this country. It contingent upon the year, I think we might be at the average age of a realtor is 53 years of age.
Yeah.
And that's because we haven't planned for retirement. So what is the first thing, because you're not talking about doing things the traditional way, what
That's
is
right.
one of the things that you believe that every realtor should do in order to be able to retire if they desire?
So what I'll do is I'll break it down a little bit. So the five pillars that we talk about with Wealth Without Wall Street, it goes in order. Okay. And this is kind of, I love to give people a little bit of a blueprint to think about. Number one, the first pillar is cash flow. So if you don't know where your cash is flowing, sometimes it's unnecessary for it to be flowing that way. So I'm going to talk about, there's two things under that, which would be debt strategies and then tax strategies. So if I have money going to pay off debt in such a way that it puts me at more risk, that's a bad thing. We need to limit that. We need to be smart about how we pay that debt off. The second thing is under taxes. If I am unnecessarily paying Uncle Sam too much money, that limits my ability to then save effectively and efficiently, right? So we have tax strategies that we teach people on. Sometimes it's entity structuring, sometimes it's just being smarter about how you're paying your taxes. Okay, so that would be the first thing, is cash flow. If I can figure out where my cash is flowing and be efficient with it, then I can save efficiently. Now, the second pillar that we use for savings is we use, instead of the way that most realtors I meet with, some of them are sitting on 100 grand or more in a savings account. Okay. How good does somebody feel about having 100 grand in a savings account? Not very good, right? They're happy to have it because it's that cushion. It's like that safety net, but they know good and well that money's not growing. It's basically just, it might as well be in a mattress somewhere, right? It's worthless for growing wealth. It's just there for like a safety net. So what we do is we teach how to set up, and we talked about this ahead of time, infinite banking is the concept that we teach, but we utilize a cash value, super high cash value life insurance policy in order, or a system of policies in order to save very efficiently and to have access to your cash to grow your business, which is the third pillar. So realtors should be investing in their business. Make it a passive business at some point. I mean, I'm sure you guys are very familiar. The MREA book, the Millionaire Real Estate Agent, Keller Williams came out with years ago. But I think that's a great example of how to make your business passive. So that's a way that you can create wealth. And then beyond that, you should invest in real estate. That's the fourth pillar. And then the fifth pillar is lending. So these are the 5 ways that we kind of teach people to build wealth, but in that order. I mean, in other words, if you're not saving efficiently, how could you ever invest in real estate, right? How could you ever grow your business if you don't have cash flow to do so? So they all kind of feed off of each other. Does that help?
That definitely helps. And one thing I know that in my state, they are adamant about paying your state taxes. So every single month, our state, the Illinois Department of Financial and Professional Regulations, sends out a list of licensees whose licenses have been suspended for failure to pay their state taxes. So I joke, but I'm dead serious. Always pay your state taxes because no one has a national real estate license. The licenses are always tied to the state. And so if you generally don't pay your student loan debt, your child support debt, or your state taxes, they will suspend your license. Now you're practicing real estate without a license that comes with a hefty fine. So I know realtors need a tax strategy, if for nothing else, but to pay their state taxes in order to be able to keep their license, right? And so...
well, and doesn't that goes back to your same point that you made up front, is that folks in real estate have typically come from another career where someone already took care of their taxes. It was a W-2, it was already drafted, withdrawn, whatever, ahead of time, and withheld, and they didn't have to worry about it. Now they get into this business, they start making a lot more money, but they don't realize that part of that's phantom income. Like that money is going to the IRS, and then they show up April 15th, and they're like, wait a minute, I got to pay that? I don't have it. It's spent, it's gone. And so you're right, we do have to have a strategy and make sure that it's working for us.
Now, one thing that you said is having the cash flow in order to buy real estate. Now, I'm not sure of the exact percentage, but one of our past national presidents came out with an investment course under REBAC to teach realtors how to invest in real estate, because a very large percentage of realtors do not own real estate. So you got a real estate license. You're preaching to people that they should own real estate, yet a large percentage of realtors do not own real estate. So now that you're saying this, it's starting to make a whole lot more sense with the cash flow. But there was one thing that I am clueless about, right? And I have a bunch of them. Like my husband is insured, I'm insured, both of my children are insured. Let me see this. Under infinite banking, a high cash value policy. What right. The insurance part of it, because if I see one more person do a GoFundMe to pay for the death of a loved one, I have a prepaid cremation, okay? Because I don't want my money I don't like to be cold, and I live in Chicago, so I don't want anybody putting me in the cold ground. That would be first and foremost. So I've already prepaid for my cremation, but I think it's shameful that people put that burden on their family where they have to go do a GoFundMe. If you didn't properly insure yourself, it means you did not care, to me, about your remains after the fact. So how does one use life insurance for growing wealth, or am I jumping too far ahead?
No, this is perfect. This is perfect. Now, but what you're pointing to is something that I think is so what we're talking about is in an uncommon way to utilize life insurance as a vehicle for savings, not just for protection. So life insurance historically has always been taught and sold as death benefit, as protection only. And if you're buying just death benefit protection, you're talking about like a term policy. So a term policy, just base level, you pay a small premium, you get a death benefit associated with it for a certain amount of time. So you say, hey, if I pass away in the next 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, whatever the term is, and I'm paying this small premium, the insurance company is going to pay my beneficiaries a death benefit. So that's the baseline. Trade $1 in a premium and you get X amount of death benefit if you die within that time frame. Now, what we're talking about when we're talking about using it as an asset, we're talking about whole life insurance. So this is permanent coverage. It will not lapse at any time, like 10, 20, 30 years. It's for the entire life. That's why they call it whole life, right? And what they're doing is they're going to charge you more for that same death benefit. So let's say, for instance, a term policy is $1,000 a year for for $1 million coverage, and a whole life would be $10,000 a year. Well, most people are like, Joey, why in the world would I pay $10,000 for the same thing I could get for $1,000? That's silly. Except for the fact that you're actually getting credited of that $10,000. The way we design them, a large percentage of that is going to cash value in the first year, second year, and it keeps continuing to grow to where you're actually putting in a certain amount and it's growing by more than you're putting in within a very short amount of time. Now, once that cash is in the policy, you can utilize that cash for all different things you would normally use savings for. Okay? So fill in the blank. We just talked about taxes. That's a huge way that my clients in real estate use these policies. They already have to save. Every time that they get a paycheck, they get a closing, they go and they cash that check, and they have a system to put 25, 35% aside for taxes. They put that into their policy. And then when taxes come due, they borrow against that cash. And this is a key word. They're not taking the cash out of the policy. Okay. Just like think about like in a savings account, if you stack up cash all throughout the year and then you pull that money out to pay taxes, whoosh, it goes down to nothing, right? Mm-hmm. Well, you're not gaining anything in that process. You're just stacking it up, saving it, bang, it goes away. And you just kind of stair step in that thing, right? When you use a policy, when I put the cash value in, I'm able to borrow against that cash just like equity in a house. But this is equity in my policy. The insurance company allows me to borrow their money instead of allow my money to continue to grow. Okay? That's the power of this, because if you add up the number of dollars we're going to spend towards taxes over a career, that's a pretty big number, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
It's a sick number. If you're successful, it's even higher than sick.
It's just sick. Yes, it's sick.
So the alternative is if I put in my savings, I never benefit from that transaction. If I do it through a policy, I'm able to benefit long-term growth on those dollars. So now I don't have to work nearly as hard to be gaining on things I'm already going to spend money on.
So if I was going to break this down, because this is not like my strongest skill set, let's say that I had a whole life policy, right? And it's $1 million. Right. Make an assumption here. And I've built up cash in this policy of an additional 100,000. Okay. Right. So I'm at $1.1 million. And I come back this year and they say, oh, Marky, you owe $25,000 in taxes.
Right.
I can take the $25,000 against the $100,000 in cash value, right?
That's right. Mm-hmm.
I'm still earning interest though on the $100,000, right?
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
And then because I've borrowed against the policy, how much does it cost me to borrow from myself?
So the insurance company is going to dictate the interest portion that you're going to pay back. Okay. It could, from company to company, it's going to vary from 4 to 5%, generally speaking. Okay. But they don't dictate to you how you repay it. So in other words, this is why it's perfect for real estate agents. Let's say I borrowed that $25,000 and the next month I just had a goose egg, like did not have a closing. How many times has that happened in a career in real estate? You had all these high hopes in that month and that closing got pushed, or this house didn't pass inspection, or fill in the blank, right? The appraisal didn't come in. I now don't have that income to pay the debts or the payments that I have for that month. Well, I don't have to pay back that $25,000 to the insurance company under any structured payments. Okay,
Wow.
this is huge. Okay, if you owe your car payment next month and you have no closings, what do you have to do? I got to pay that car payment no matter what, or I can't get to the office or to the next closing. So I'm gonna find a way. But if you owe the policy, I don't have to pay it back. And then when my closings do catch up, right? We have a seasonal business, a cyclical business, where you call me in January, February in real estate, and I'm going to be like, hey, I'm a little light on cash. But you call me in June, July, August, and I'm going to say, I'm sitting on cash I don't know what to do with, because I've had this influx of new closings that come in the hot season. So when those hot seasons come, I have a place to pay back the loan that I borrowed from the policy. Or as I have a closing, I put money aside for paying taxes. I just put it right back in the policy. So that's the process. And of course, we kind of come along as a coach to help realtors and other entrepreneurs understand how to work it and how to capture this cash flow, because it's happening, right? These cash flows are happening in our business, whether we are taking advantage of it or not.
So I think I must have whole life insurance, because when the real estate market crashed, and this was some years ago, I needed to go in and take some money, and they didn't say, oh, you owe this amount, or, whatever. I paid it back as I saw fit to pay it back. Right. So clearly I must have one, I guess. But I'm not, even though I might, and other realtors might have one, that doesn't mean we're leveraging it for this purpose.
Right. And you're exactly right. This is one of those things that 90% of insurance agents do not teach their people how to do this. And don't ask me why. I think it's because they've never really sold insurance with this in mind. They sell it with death benefit in mind, and they've been trained by like the home office that they work for. So this is a totally different way of doing it. It's not uncommon for us at Wealth Without Wall Street to have people call us and say, hey, I've got one of those policies. Can you help me figure out what to do with it? And so we've actually created a community where you can be a part of it, whether you're a client of ours or not. It's about to launch, by the way. This community is about to launch. So I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but you can sign up to join it, and there you'll get the community of other people doing the same thing. So you're not an island, right, trying to figure out this by yourself. You get advice from people all over the country. We have certified advisors that will be there doing Q&A sessions every week. We're going to do some hot seat sessions where I'm sitting with a client and asking them questions, and people can be watching and say, oh, okay, that's what they're doing. Okay, that's what I want to do, or I want to learn how to do this too. We have video content. Our podcast episodes will be in there. We have tax and legal advice in the community that you can have access to just for the monthly fee. So it's a great place. If you have one of these and want to learn how to do it, you don't have to become our client. You can just learn from the community. And so anyways, if people want access to that, I can get you the link.
Most definitely.
It's community.wealthwithoutwallstreet.com. So you can sign up there. And actually the first people to sign up are going to get 50% off the monthly fee. So if you're thinking about it, this is a great time to do it.
Tell us that link again.
Yeah, community.wealthwithoutwallstreet.com.
Okay, so let me ask you this question. So I have, we talked about our children. I have two sons. One is a recent college graduate.
Congrats.
Thank you very much. And we got him out. He does have some debt, but he's right at about $20,000 worth of debt for a university that costs $47,000 a year. And
Wow.
we have no debt. So
that's huge.
Yeah, it was a financial sacrifice. Okay.
No doubt.
So I have two strategies. So sometimes we do things, and I don't have two strategies. I'm going to ask you about this. Sometimes in life, we might not properly prepare for our retirement, but we're going to take care of our children and our grandchildren.
Right.
So let's say that we're not willing to do this for ourselves. I have two sons. one 6 years out from college, the other one a recent college graduate. What are some of the strategies that we can implement for our children, our grandchildren, that might put them ahead of the curve, even though we might not be willing to do it for ourselves?
So one thing I'll say is you always, when you're thinking about this as a potential strategy, it is always great to start with yourself, because generationally, it just makes sense. It's going to pass on to the next one. And number two, it's not just about the passing on of assets, but the knowledge of how to build wealth. So if you're not doing it, why would your son or your other children, I mean, why would they then do it? We have to pass on the knowledge. In fact, we did an episode with an estate attorney that he really hammered home and really kind of challenged me. Like, man, if we're not talking about what we believe and how we actually, the knowledge of how to create wealth, then really when we pass on assets, it's just going to be a depletion with no real future legacy. Wow. And so why don't we build within a family unit a knowledge base that, hey, I know what to do when assets get passed down to me because I've been taught. I know what goes on behind it. But to answer your question more directly on the children's deal, the same thing I've done with my girls. I've got 5 girls. I've started policies for all 5 of them that we will then utilize over time. I'm going to teach them how to use it, right? By showing them, hey, when it's time for them to buy a car at 16, guess where we're going to go? We're going to go to their policy. And then I'm going to say, hey, when you get that first job and you start to make some money, let's pay your policy back in, right? You can use your policy for this purpose. Then when it comes to college, where are we going to get the money? We're going to go straight to their policy. When we get weddings, everybody tells me all the time, that's a lot of weddings, 5 girls. Holy cow, Joey. And I'm like, you betcha. I better be really good at what I do because this is going to be a big deal. So
You're right about that. 5, and then each one needs to top the previous one. And so the deck's just getting bigger and bigger. So I do have a question for you. So I probably have the most insurance in our household because I am married to a diabetic. What does one do when they're hard to insure?
So number one, just because you have some sort of a health issue doesn't mean you're uninsurable, but you may have a higher rating, right? Or a lower rating in this case. The good news about the way that we set these policies up is that your rating is not nearly as important when you're talking about cash value as you're talking about death benefit. So if we're focused on the cash, percentage-wise, I can get somebody that's in their 50s and somebody that's in their 20s, and the amount of cash percentage-wise is going to be very, very similar. So if I put in $25,000 into one policy that's a 20-year-old and a 50-year-old, they're going to have virtually the same amount of cash value. Their death benefits are going to vary, but the cash value is going to be very similar. So that's what we're focused on. So anyways, that's really important. The second thing about it, and this is true of the gentleman that taught us this whole concept, Nelson Nash is the founder of Becoming Your Own Bank. It's the name of his book, Becoming Your Own Banker. And he actually had 49 policies at one time, but he was uninsurable. Okay, so he had heart issues that then kept him from being insurable. But he bought policies on his kids, his grandkids, great-grandkids, and other business associates. So if you become in a business with somebody, they're now insurable with you because if something were to happen to them, it could affect you negatively in your business. So if you're totally uninsurable, there are still ways to practice this, even if it's not on your life.
Wow. So now so my husband essentially could utilize me, even though the death benefits, because we're trying to build the cash, which then means that I could always leverage it for the cash even after he died, even though he wasn't the insured.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now you know what? Hey.
You're a lot more dialed in than most people. The first time I share this with people, they're like, "Say what?" And it doesn't really get very far. So this
Well, I'm
is
glad we're getting far
impressive.
because let me say this. I got my good realtor hat on, but I also, and in investment, I'm not the greatest investor. Let me go that way. First of all, I had to get over buying trinkets. So I'm well over buying the trinkets. I'm that person with the cash sitting in the bank and kind of trying to decide which way to go with it. Overall, I'm pretty healthy and the most insured person in my house. But of course, I want to leverage all of the participants of my house. So any way that I can, I see where we're going with this. And so you've given me a great concept that it would make sense and we could build that cash because we got to the point that we have very little debt. And some people,
That's huge.
that it is huge. And it took, we had to change. So we got that part done. So now how do we move, swing the pendulum in the opposite direction where, we don't have debt, we have great credit and we have cash reserves. Now we're on the wealth portion, but it took us a long time to get here. And then also what you said, which I'm elated you answered the question that way. It's about passing the knowledge on because I tell people this all the time. It's two type of children to me, right? But now you've given me a third type of child. Generally, it's that child who's never left home, knows nothing about managing finance. You leave them your real estate, and then they lose it within a year or two for taxes or other unknown reasons, right? And then there's that child who is on their own, right? Who never wants mom's house under any circumstances, not going to move back, period.
Right.
They will sell the house, but they don't turn it into wealth. They go and buy the boat or the expensive car that they wanted, right?
Right.
And I'm seeing two different type of children. There are very few people who I've seen possess the knowledge in order to leverage those assets, whether they lived at home or don't live at home, in order to prepare or leave a legacy.
Right. Well, and what's happened is I think as families, we all have kind of become silos with money, right? Like your generation, you and your husband have your income, your assets, your money, and then your kids feel like, oh, I've got to make my own way. I've got to have my own assets, my own income. And what's happening is you're going to the bank to get loans and things that you need. They're going to the bank to get loans and things that they need. And what's happening is, this is pretty shocking if you think about it. You may have money on deposit at the bank that your son is going to get a car loan at. And guess whose money the bank is lending to him? It's yours.
Mine.
But somebody's making the money in between you and him.
The bank.
And it's not your family.
Right.
And so this is a crazy thing. If we can teach our family to view the money that we have as one big pool of money that we now can leverage each other, like you're saying, then it's very easy for them to click and say, oh, well, I borrow money from the family. I'm going to pay back the money just like I would pay Bank of America, Wells Fargo for this car loan. I'm paying back the family bank. And in the future, when something happens and assets are passed on, like we said, at the death benefit, now I know what to do because we've been practicing it as a family the whole time. It's a little profound. It's a little bit out there, trust me. But if you can think that way, the knowledge of building wealth is what gets passed on and everybody's on the same page.
The knowledge is key. Okay, so now, oh yeah, you got my head working here because I'm just thinking about how am I going to leverage and restructure these policies. And I know they all got I think they're all whole life insurance, to be honest with you. And think about this. My oldest son, he's 23. He's been insured for 23 years.
Oh, yeah, that's huge. Yeah.
My other son has been insured for 12 years. And I've been insured probably about 20 some. I was 21 when I took the policy because I felt as though if anything ever happened to me, I wanted to leave my mother, who's passed away, money so that she could just go and enjoy herself. That was my thought process.
Sure.
And so we got these 3 policies, but I'm not leveraging them to be my own banking system. It's just for the death benefit. Okay. Yeah. So now how do I use this for real estate? I got the cash flow. I got the life insurance. I know there are a couple of different ways, but what are the most profound ways to use this to come back to accumulate real estate?
Okay, so first and foremost is we're always going to teach that you should invest in things that you know and understand as the first rung of investment. What everybody in the world is telling you is, man, you need to put money on Wall Street, which realtors on the whole, I mean, you may have some exceptions, on the whole do not know or understand, and they're taking complete risk by putting money into things that they don't know or understand. In the meantime, they're driving around town showing houses and seeing opportunity after opportunity after opportunity under their nose. They're going to list that house that the elderly person says, man, I really just want to get rid of this house. It's too much. I need to move into assisted living or whatever it might be. And they know that they're selling it for 60% of the value. Well, if you're a realtor and you're sitting there and you have access to cash, is that an opportunity for you? Or is it going to be something because you don't have access to cash, you're going to pass on to an investor, right? So you and I talked about realtors should be investors. It's what they do. It's their trade. But what happens is we get stuck in this, I don't have access to cash because I haven't put any money aside. My cash flows are wacky and all over the place. And so I'm constantly passing opportunity to the next person when I should be taking advantage of it. So that's just a little side note that I would say. But the second thing I'd say is once you have policies that have cash, you just leverage the cash just like you would any other savings account. So if I need down payment to buy a house that's $150,000, I need, 20%. I need 30 grand to put down on this house. I'm going to borrow it from my policy. And then once that cash flow comes into me from that rental property, let's say it's, $300 a month. Whatever the number is, $400 a month. I'm going to use that $400 to repay the $30,000 back into my policy and then do it over again. Get the next property and the next property and just keep that kind of that flow of money going in, coming out, going in, coming out. And I'm going to build a portfolio of properties that are cash flowing to me, but I'm never going to try to live off that cash flow because then it's just increasing my lifestyle. It's not increasing passive income, right? Which that's what we really are about at the end of the day. If we can have passive income that exceeds our monthly expenses, that is true financial freedom. That's where we're headed. If you can do that systematically, and we just happen to use a policy because it's the most efficient savings tool, but the end goal, as we started this whole conversation, is financial freedom, which means I don't have to go list or sell that new home. I choose to because I enjoy what I do, but I've got passive income that's paying my bills no matter if I do that house or not. And that's what the goal is.
Wow. So what I love, you said, do not increase lifestyle, increase passive income. And a lot of times we'll see that money pulled out or and we increase our lifestyle, right? We need the next Chanel purse or Louis Vuitton or whatever it is. And I'm a shopper, so I understand. I definitely understand.
We're all subject to it.
Don't increase the lifestyle. One thing that we've been talking now is to have the experience without increasing the lifestyle. So you want a Porsche. Okay, well, go lease or rent a Porsche for a month and then take the Porsche back. You've had the experience. Let's go back to the car that's paid for. Exactly. And that's kind of where I am right now. I haven't had a new car in 9 years. And before I walked in my room today to record, I said, Marky, take the car, get it detailed, get the armrest fixed because it's a Honda. And they told me I got another 100,000 miles on the car, right? And that's the thing I just keep telling myself because between Uber and not being here, it's like, why would you buy another car?
Exactly.
But we can get caught up in shiny things as realtors do. So, and then the next thing is, I see on here, we talked about lending or business investing.
Yep.
So we're loaning money to ourselves or are we lending money to others?
So both.
Okay.
So think about it like this. The very first step, as I mentioned, after you've got your cash flow in play, then you've got your savings going to the right place in these policies. Now I want to invest first in the things I know the most about. So a realtor knows the most about their business. So, and we talked, so the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book is something I'll point to as the blueprint to build a team in real estate. And many people have heard of it. I don't know many people, not a ton of people that are doing it, but I think it is the number one way for realtors to build wealth. If I have extra cash and I can invest, let's say it's $40,000 in an admin, okay? I can hire that admin to do the tasks that are going to free me up to, help more buyers or take more listings. Now that $40,000, if it helps me create $100,000 in additional income this year, because I'm no longer doing the paperwork, the marketing, the MLS, entering things in MLS, whatever it is, I now have more freedom to make more money. If I trade $40,000 for $100,000 of income, that's a really, really big return, right? You cannot get that in Wall Street. You cannot get that in buying a piece of real estate. You can't get that in any of those other places. And it's something that you know and control. So if you can systematically invest in your business, maybe it's buying leads. Maybe it's working on social media and hiring that piece out so that you can then expand your business faster and create more leads. Those are all things that you can kind of pull the levers on with your cash to increase your business. And eventually, we want to make our business passive. That means you step out as the owner of the business, but other people are now working for you and you're continuing to get paid, a salary or some sort of bonus or what have you. That's when you start getting passive income from your business. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes it makes a lot of sense. And I'm sitting here talking to myself saying, Marky, change your mind again. Change your mind again to increase the passive income. And you broke it down at its simplest level. So thank you.
Well, and if you think about it this way, the hardest part about making that change is getting out of your own way, right? Yes. We as self-employed entrepreneurs, business owners, fill in the blank, we think that we're the only ones that can do the job as well as we do, that our clients are only going to work with us and all this stuff. So we're the technician in the business. We're the ones that have to do the business. But when you start thinking about your value is so much bigger than just being the technician, there are plenty of people that can do the job that we're doing, but only one of us can run the business, right? So we have to step out of the technician seat into the owner seat, the person who's setting the vision for the business, who's creating the value at a high level. And then we have other people, whether it be a buyer's agent, listing agent, admins, those people can all take those technician roles, but we have to get out of our own way and let that happen. Then it can only become passive. If you're always a technician, it will never be a passive business.
Wow. Joey, you have given us a plethora of information. And honestly, my head is not spinning. It's not even overwhelming. It's kind of like a joy to understand how to utilize it. And for me, I guess I find it to be a joy because I have these things in place. I'm just not leveraging them correctly.
Sure.
And how can I potentially, shift that not only for me, but also for my children and provide them with knowledge? I know that you have an abundance of online resources. What is the best way for one to connect with you? What is the best way? I know you're launching a new community. How do my fellow realtors get this information so that they can create passive income?
So obviously, number one, if they want to just join the community, that's a great way to observe and to learn. Another key kind of resource that we created specifically for realtors is a passive income video series. And it's all about, okay, one, who am I? Why did I do this? What's the way we think, and kind of break down this process with videos. Because I know I'm a visual learner. I needed to create something like that. So we created, it's a 4-video series. It's 25 minutes total. Because I know realtors don't have time to sit around and watch hours and hours of videos, but they can sit down for 25 minutes and watch 4 videos. Anyways, it's called passiveincome.wealthwithoutwallstreet.com. Passiveincome.wealthwithoutwallstreet.com. You go in there and put your email in and you'll get all these 4 videos. You can watch them at your own time. And if you watch those, you say, okay, this is kind of something I need to look into. and I want to set up an appointment, there's actually a way to get access to my calendar or our office's calendar, and you can get with one of our advisors to walk through how the process would look for you. So that's a great resource specifically for realtors. And hopefully, I'm just going to throw this out here, okay? We talked a little bit about writing books. I am in the process of writing one specifically for realtors, how to, and I don't even have the name of it yet. So this is really, really early, but stay tuned on that, because as soon as that comes available, I want to make that available to anybody that has, been in the real estate world and looking for a solution to a very difficult problem. Finances in real estate are just difficult. So I want to help people, find the way.
Wow. Well, thank you so much, Joey, and thank you everyone for listening. I want us to all create passive income and hopefully, if you so desire, one day retire. Have a great day.